Delighted to be in West Africa. I had the pleasure of living in Ghana for 4 years, and I'm not saying that Ghana and Nigeria are equal, but it's always a pleasure coming here. We felt the vibes immediately last night when we arrived at Lagos airport, and it really gives us energy. I'm representing Innovation Norway. Innovation Norway is a government agency under the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Fisheries, and my presentation will reflect this. I'm Regional Director for Africa and the Middle East, based in Oslo, but traveling a lot. We are supporting Norwegian businesses. We are supporting entrepreneurs, those we believe in, and for them to grow, to give small funding to small entrepreneurs and more funding to others. I think we will have facing some difficulties here. We had some during the presentation. As I said, Innovation Norway is an organization under the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Fisheries, and we are headed by a very energetic and very visionary leader who has been heading our organization for now since 2014. We are owned by the ministry, as I said, and partly also by the regions, and there's a reason for that. We are also we have a role in supporting the regional development in Norway, and one way of supporting the industries and the regions is also to open up export markets. So actually in 2004 before 2004 we were 4 organizations, where Norwegian Trade Council was one of them, promoting Norwegian trade, and then there was a regional development agency, Norwegian Tourism Board, and also a small office for inventors, and this all merged into Innovation Norway. What many people don't know is that Innovation Norway is also a bank. We are the agriculture bank, the fishery bank, and partly also the industry bank of Norway. So we are providing funds, but we're also providing loans, risk loans, and low-risk loans to Norwegian businesses in their innovation processes. I've covered most of this already. So it's to support the development of the Norwegian business sectors. We have offices throughout the entire Norway, in all the counties and regions of Norway, and we are also offices abroad. Currently we are present in 29 countries, 35 offices. And we also on this continent, unfortunately, coming back to that, not yet, I say yet, in West Africa. We are very closely linked, in our foreign operations, we are very closely linked to the embassies. So where there is an embassy, we are the commercial section of the Norwegian embassy. Where there's no Innovation Norway office, the embassy is representing Innovation Norway in that country, meaning that here in Nigeria, the Norwegian embassy in Abuja is also representing Innovation Norway and takes charge of, let's say, business issues. Companies can contact the embassy and so on. And this is regulated through an agreement we made in 2007, which we are now renegotiating and making it even stronger, if you ask me. We have something called Team Norway. When we are abroad, the government agencies, together with the embassies, we are working as a team, and that be here, let's say, take an example, that if in case Innovation Norway should be in Nigeria, we are then a part of the Team Norway, together with the Norwegian Seafood Council, with the Nigerian Norwegian Chamber of Commerce, and then of course the embassy. And this Team Norway cooperation is always headed by the ambassador. There are other government agencies also with offices abroad, and very often they are co-located with the embassy and with Innovation Norway, and sometimes we are their representatives abroad. I've just listed some of them, and when they are present in a country, that the Research Council, Export Credit, or the Siemens Mission, they are also part of the Team Norway in that country. What services do we provide? I mentioned the financing services, and that's often why companies, Norwegian companies and entrepreneurs or clusters are making contact with Innovation Norway to get funding. They have an investment project. They need some additional funding to realize the project, and so financing is an important part of what we are doing. But when we make a survey, let's say after 1 year, 3 years, 7 years, the feedback says that what we provide in terms of network is equally important as financing. So when we bring Norwegian companies to a venue like this, or we use our network in foreign countries, finding partners or whatever, that has an equal high value to Norwegian companies as the financing. But very often they need that initial financing to bridge the first wall. Then advisory services, that's what our offices abroad usually focus on. Advice on market opportunities, if a company comes to us and asks us to check the market opportunities for their product or for their services in a certain market, we do that work, or we find somebody who can do it even better. And then we bring that information back to the company as an important part of their decision making. We locate partners, potential partners. They always make the final choice themselves, but shortlist potential partners and so forth. We may advise on culture, on language, on behavior, on things like use of hotel, or anything actually in those markets. Expertise here is more competence services. We have competence programs for companies to, as I said, just basic for an entrepreneur to make a business plan. For many, that's new. We have programs and training for that type of entrepreneurs, but we also have programs for more developed companies when it comes to building knowledge of doing business internationally. And profiling, I mentioned that we also have the tourism activity, so we are the tourism promoters, but we are also promoting Norwegian industry abroad. We do that by taking part in trade fairs, in setting up delegations, following the king or the crown prince or the minister when they're traveling abroad. They always bring with them a business delegation, and we are responsible for that delegation and for making the program. And so also some of the other, as well, some of the other, let's say, government agencies may have that type of responsibilities. Just to show here, you know, if we are receiving the funds from various ministries, quite a number actually, and from various sources, and you know, by using this fund by using some of that funds, many other goods as well, and just to give us a short glimpse into what they are doing, I've added a short movie here, which I hope will work.
Export Credit Norway. Competitive financing from Norway. With vast experience in multiple industries, we support projects all over the world with attractive long-term financing. From oil rigs operating offshore Brazil and shipping in the North Sea, to renewable energy in Belgium. Norwegian industry is renowned for its ability to innovate and for the quality of its products. We provide your debt financing so that you can concentrate on building your own vision. We offer long-term loans for ships for up to 12 years, covering up to 80% of the project cost. The combined product, a loan from Export Credit Norway, backed by guarantees from export credit agencies and banks, ensures a competitive and secure solution for your financing needs. The process starts with you, the buyer or exporter, applying for the loan. We then provide you with an indicative term sheet. Following credit approval by Export Credit Norway and our loan guarantors, the loan agreement is negotiated with the buyer. The loan is disbursed when delivery has taken place. Export Credit Norway administers the loan for the entire repayment period. With stable and robust funding from the Norwegian state, Export Credit Norway helps bring Norwegian quality products to the rest of the world. Get your project off the ground with quality deliveries and financing. Export Credit Norway. Competitive financing from Norway. Call us today or visit us online to find out more.
A representative of GIEC was supposed to join us Export Credit Norway was supposed to join us for this seminar, so he apologized very much because they had a family incident that required him to stay back in Norway. Norway, like any other oil-dependent country, are facing difficulties these days, and the shortcoming when it comes to export value from the oil and gas sector, of course, has to be compensated with other businesses. That's a task where that Innovation Norway has got on our shoulders as well, to ensure that Norway increases the focus on other types of export industries, and so we do. Meaning that we need a larger variety of businesses when we in our export focus. We need to be more competitive. You know, Norway is relatively high priced. The cost level is sometimes too high to be internationally competitive, and we need to increase the productivity as well to cater for some of the increased and the high cost. The 2015 was actually a turning point, and for Innovation Norway as well, and the focus for the Norwegian industry as well as for industries in other places in the world. The UN climate conference in Paris made these 17 let's say goals, put up the goals for how the world should let's say move on and continue, and this is actually the not the Bible, but it paves the way, it gives the direction for how the industries should develop, and so it does for Innovation Norway. So Innovation Norway, we went out and asked the industries what are the areas that we should really focus on for the next years, and the feedback was very clear. These are the industries that the Norwegian industry wants Innovation Norway to focus on, and want Norway to focus on when it comes to business development and when it comes to international strategies. And I'll just show you here as well. It ends up with the focus for today, which is the renewable side, but this gives a short input on how we are focusing.
In the global race towards a sustainable green economy, Norway has a head start. The forces of nature that once made our lives a hard-fought battle now make us uniquely suited to become the first society powered solely by clean energy. Green data centers running smart societies on low-cost renewable power and free natural cooling, taking advantage of the same abundant and reliable access to clean energy that made our heavy industry the cleanest in the world. Norway's availability of affordable, clean energy may prove a competitive advantage for business and industries in a low-carbon future. Electrification is the key to a sustainable low-carbon society. Electric mobility, cars, ferries, data processing, automation, production, high technology and new business models, running on energy that is renewable. Now we seize our opportunity. For Norway, the foundation is already laid. On our way towards a sustainable future, green businesses will thrive, based on clean energy.
I'll take a few examples from the clean energy side. As I said, we asked the industry. There was some kind of a project called the Dream Commitment, where the Innovation Norway met the industry throughout the entire Norway to sit down with them, to interview them, and based on that make the conclusions as to what should be the focus ahead and what advice should we provide the government, the Norwegian government. One area was that we found the Norwegian government, or the various, let's say, ministries and directorates and so forth, not to be that coordinated. So the first thing was that we said that maybe the government should assign a single ministry to have the overall coordinating responsibility for implementing a national direction and associated goals and action plans. Number two, you know, we have a quite advanced, and there's a long history behind the use of renewable of the hydropower in Norway, especially for the smelters. And this is represented by an aluminum smelter in Karmøy, Norway, where they are now actually investing heavily now in a future and even more environment-friendly smelter process. Oh, sorry, that was not this one, that was this one. And that we recommend development in line with Norway's position as a preferred location for green investments, using the let's say this renewable energy branding of Norway to attract foreign investors that would like to be seen under the green let's say umbrella. Within Innovation Norway we have a section called the Invest in Norway section, and so that's, they are trying to and doing the best in getting foreign investors to invest in Norway. Then to go out to the world and let's say promote Norway as a testing bed for new technologies. That should be, make sure that we get this to Norway. This is represented by let's say a power, a screw, you know, that takes the energy from an ocean current, and so that the technology and service providers within clean energy, that they receive access to the necessary risk mitigation and market expertise, so they can compete internationally and develop the best and most cost-efficient solutions in the industry. Norway is quite advanced when it comes to electric cars. So we have seen a boom during the past, let's say, 10 years or so. There have been a few incentives, giving them some kind of priority in the traffic. They can be using the bus lanes. They don't have to pay when they pass a toll station, road toll, and they can have free parking. And you know, this has really made a boom when it comes to the electric car business in Norway. So I think we are in the forefront of the world when it comes to number of electric cars per capita now. And we should actually adopt a position as a laboratory for testing on new business concepts related to zero emission transportation. And when we are talking about zero emission, of course, we have a few players. We will listen to Scatec Solar later today. Quite interesting what they are doing here, represented by one plant from South Africa and the other one from Rwanda. And it will be interesting to listen today on their project here in Nigeria. But you know, there are other players as well, big players, and there are hundreds of smaller players, those for solar energy, that are looking for opportunities internationally. And it's our role to support them. Of course, for the big ones like Scatec Solar, we don't have that much role because they are big, they know the market better than we will ever do. And so I think they are quite self-sufficient when it comes to international competence in that sense. But you know, there are other projects that Innovation Norway have been involving in, like improving or making the transport sector, the sea transport sector, more environment friendly. We have for many years worked with the LNG as a fuel for propulsion of vessel, that be smaller vessels, ferries and so forth, but also for larger vessels. But you know, we are now in the direction of moving from a cleaner energy to clean energy by using battery-driven ferries. And we have them already in Norway in operation, and they work well, and new are coming. But we also others using fuel cells, hydrogen-fueled fuel cells is also an area that we've been working on for quite some years in Norway. Also when it comes to as a fuel for cars. But now it's also for the shipping industry for ferries, and the first one is under construction. So we have a few projects under the Pilot umbrella, and electric-driven passenger shuttle boats, sightseeing vessels, electric ferries, and so forth. So there are quite a number, and more are coming every month actually. I bet you know this is a gathering of electric cars. In the rural Twitter some time back, it was in 2016, just heard that Norway will ban new sales of fuel cars in 2015. What an amazing, awesome country. You guys rock. You know, there is a lot of focus now on petrol cars versus diesel cars and so forth, and it's not a long time back now, this year actually, where diesel cars were banned for a full day in Oslo, just raising the awareness that there's an issue here, and we might see a restriction when it comes to the use of diesel cars and maybe also petrol cars over the years. We are moving quite rapidly in the direction of electric cars or other zero-emission cars. I have to mention this one. I think that this is very relevant, and that's one of the key reasons why I am here. Actually on this trip. We believe that Nigeria has a huge potential when it comes to aquaculture. Not only because of the natural resources for that type of industry, but also for your need for proteins as the nation is growing. And here I think Norway has something to offer. We are selling, and we have been selling into your country for many, many years, seafood. That is stockfish or salmon or other mackerel. But you know, there's also an opportunity in this country to farm your own fish. And that doesn't have to be salmon. Norway can provide key competence within this area. And we have our state secretary from the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Fisheries in Lagos from Sunday till Wednesday, this coming Sunday, and we have a quite compact program for him and for those he will be meeting during those days. Key focus for him will be, of course, the sale of Norwegian seafood, but he will also, let's say, ensure that he touches upon the aquaculture sector and what Norway can offer in that respect. We have a quite strong seafood cluster in Norway, and we have other clusters as well. We have actually, over the years, in 2003, 2004, we have developed a very, very good and very well, let's say, performing cluster initiative in Norway. We have the oil and gas clusters, the global centers of expertise within subsea, within drilling. We have one when it comes to the blue ocean, meaning maritime sectors. We have in renewable energy, we have clusters in healthcare and so forth. So we have quite a number, and the Norwegian seafood cluster is very closely linked to that one. Previously it was linked to the maritime cluster, but now we see that it's linked to so many other clusters as well. You know, it started off quite some, let's say 45, 50 years ago, very, if you, at today's level, very basic, seen from today's level, but at that time it was very advanced. And here actually then the Crown Prince of Norway, now the King, has been visiting one of these cage farms, It developed into more advanced farms and into what is today's Norwegian standard. But if you ask me, I think we are still at a very early stage when it comes to development of the aquaculture sector in Norway and internationally. We are now moving into more advanced technologies. There are some disadvantages, of course, environmental issues that we need to take into consideration. So more of moving this industry or this aquaculture farming out offshore, I think is a must. Meaning that we are moving into more of the offshore construction type of production facilities, fish farming facilities. Meaning that there will be a very close link between fish farming and the clusters for the oil and gas sector. This one is, you see here, I just put it up here, it's 430 meters long, 54 meters wide, and it can take has a capacity of 10,000 tons of salmon into one cage, or one construction, I would say. This is a new one. You know, closed farming, this is also a closed one, to ensure that you take care of the excess feed and so on, that it doesn't pollute the seabed and so forth. So new technologies are coming up, new types of cages are coming up, and this is also a new development, a totally closed farm that can be far out in the sea. It can take, one of these constructions can take up to 1,000 tons of salmon. This is the future, and there are other constructions. Some of them are being constructed these days. This is one of them, but there are more now. Licenses have been given by the government to start testing this type of structures. And the best for last when it comes to what we can offer, of course, seafood. Yes, you are familiar with most of these both. It's called on the bottom there, right? Mackerel, salmon, and stockfish made from cod. And you know, the Nigerians are very active when it comes to buying Norwegian seafood. You see on the bottom here in 2016, Nigeria was the biggest market for Norway for mackerel. That says something about the need for proteins and need for food in this country, and of course the attractiveness of the Norwegian seafood. Then I said, but just a few words about Norway and Africa. You know, Africa has said, and then I'm not talking about Nigeria only. Nigeria is one of those countries, but you know, has had a tremendous development when it comes to GDP growth over the past 10-15 years, and of course, it started at a relatively low level compared to some other nations and so forth. But you know, this has really done something with this continent and made the continent more attractive. But there are issues as well, and the perception of Africa in Norway, I must honestly say, we have a missionary work to do in Norway when it comes to telling the story, to bringing up the good cases, the good examples. Scotland is one of them, those companies that really stand up and tell the story about what are the opportunities on these continents, and there are a few others as well. But you know, all of us have to do that, and that's why I'm so happy when NABA, the Norwegian African Business Association, when they have this summit every autumn that gathers some 300 to 400 and 450 participants. That's a fantastic venue to tell the good stories and give a positive picture of this continent. But as I said, we still have a job to do there. Norwegian industry, we need new markets. Europe is by far the largest market for Norway, by almost 80% of our exports go to Europe. But you know, we don't have any too much increase there. We need to increase the total exports from Norway, and there we need to find new markets. That be Asia, South America, Africa, or whatever. So we need to put more focus on that type of markets. And I would say that the needs of Africa and African countries very well fits to what we can offer. That be energy, that be water qualities, that be, let's say, food in terms of producing food. I have mentioned the fish farming already, but that could also be linked to the aquaculture sector, and some other areas as well. So I think the opportunities are there. Currently in West Norway, we are only present in South Africa and in East Africa. In East Africa, in Nairobi, covering Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and now Ethiopia from there. It's a regional office. It's limited how much we can do, but we from one location like that. But we are trying our best now to cover that market. But of course, when it comes to the markets for Norwegian exporters, West Africa is the largest, and Angola has over the past few years been the biggest market in West Africa, primarily due to the subsea installations and sale of subsea installations. Historically, Nigeria has always been the biggest market on the African continent for Norway. And I think probably we might, within a year or two, see that Nigeria has overtaken Angola again, depending how the oil and gas industry develops when it comes to investments. But there are some other promising markets as well. Ethiopia, I mentioned that one briefly, Mozambique and Egypt, where Norwegian companies are investing, and we're seeing markets. This one, how many of you have seen this one? It's quite amazing. This is something that was made by UN. It's world population estimates for up until year 2100. It's a medium scenario. They have a best case scenario, worst case scenario, and this is the medium scenario. Where it says that Nigeria today approximately 180 million people. By 2050, Nigeria we will count a population of approximately 400 million. 2100, according to this one, 914 million. The third biggest country in the world, after China and India. And China, you see here, is a white, means that they are here today in 2010. Oh, sorry, what happens? But the population of Nigeria will be China will be slightly smaller. India will continue to increase. The biggest increase actually in your neighbor country, Nigeria. They estimate that by 2100 there will be more than 200 million in Nigeria, which is quite interesting. But you know, seeing a picture like that, this, for us sitting up in Norway, this is opportunities. You need food, you need proteins, you need energy, you need clean water, whatever. And these are the areas where we think that we can provide assistance or provide technology together with you and team up with you in order to cope with this type of demand. A country developing with let's say a GDP growth of 6% a year, may need an energy increase growth of around 9% a year to cope with that development, that growth. And companies, we have started here, but that could be also other companies that are interested in taking advantage of the opportunities we see on this continent. So the African continent here will be, today it's approximately 1.1 billion. In 2100, the estimate is that Africa will be closer to 4.5. Yeah. When it comes to the export and trade between Norway and Nigeria, we don't have too much to brag about. The potential is much higher. And those of us who are here, I think we have a role to play in making sure that we are correcting this picture. Of course, when it comes to I mentioned the seafood and so forth, which is a large part of what we are exporting to Nigeria, the majority is linked to the oil and petroleum and products from there between our two countries. So we have a role to play there, and I think we will see a change hopefully in the future. That was what I wanted to say. Any questions or comments? Yes, please.
everybody. This was a fantastic presentation. Thank you very much for making the time to join us at this forum. The only question I have is a subject that I've discussed with you in the past, and that's the plan for Innovation Norway to establish its regional office in West Africa.
Actually, the answer is very easy. We don't have any plans for the time being to do that. We had a total go-through, let's say, of our international presence in 2016, and my hope was that we will have budgets enough to establish some kind of presence in West Africa. Unfortunately, the budgets that we had available did not was not big enough, let's say, to make that possible. That doesn't mean that we don't have a focus on West Africa, but as I said, we don't have a presence there. But so we rely on the embassies. We have two fantastic ambassadors, both here and in Ghana, which are the key, let's say, companies in this part of West Africa, and also in Rwanda, Angola, a very able and very hardworking ambassador, together with a staff focusing on business. So they are providing fantastic support to the businesses, to Norwegian companies coming there. So and I am in close touch with all those embassies frequently. So sometimes they have questions to me, sometimes I need their assistance, and very often it's linking companies to their local people, local personnel, for them to assist the companies and to answer questions or whatever they have. So, but I'm sorry, but we for the time being, I don't foresee that we this year or next year will have any presence in West Africa.
Good afternoon. Incisive presentation. I think your presentation might have answered the question, but what I want to highlight from Chidioke's point is that you had showed us a graph earlier with all your large markets, your largest markets in Africa in red, and where your offices were in another color. Clearly, there's a big disparity between where you're located in Africa and where your biggest businesses are. And if, as you have said, for us in this room, we're going to work towards bridging that gap, it's going to be a lot of work, and I want to share my own personal experience with you. I think it's very important also that we understand the policy of the federal government of Nigeria currently, and as to how the Norwegians can take advantage of this. I want to talk about agriculture in particular. We have been to Norway, we've met with Geik, Northern, and we've met with you. And also, we made contact with a company called Aqua, which you know is one of your biggest companies, to see how we can get them here to do cage fish farming. It's not been a very easy experience so far, and we need to bridge that gap. The challenges range not only from, like you said, the perception that we need to bridge, but also the fact that there's not much contact, so there's not much presence to get them to establish presence here. But what I would like to take, you to take back, and I think it's something that I've made known to the Deputy Foreign Minister Chike and the Ambassador, and of course the Norwegian Seafood Council, is that the only people who are going to be allowed to import fish in Nigeria now are people who have extensive investments in fish farming in Nigeria. And eventually, if you don't have that, it's different. I think we understand the numbers apart from stockfish and what sort of numbers the Norwegians are doing compared to the rest of the markets. I think the substitution that is going on now with cage fish farming, I think we need to start looking at how we can exploit this, because it is only with that investment here that you will be allowed to import fish into Nigeria going forward, because the policy going forward is import substitution. So I'm going to throw the gauntlet back at you to say, how do we make this work? If you say that for us together in this room, we have made some moves, we've encountered some obstacles and hurdles. So the question is, how would you yourself, the ambassador, and the rest of us here work to remove those hurdles and to make things work? Thank you very much.
To focus on, it's not, we are part of the Norwegian government, and it's not only what's let's say business-driven, not only business-driven perspectives that we have to consider. We have also some, let's say, aid-funded or development aid, business development that we have to, that the tasks that have been given to Innovation Norway, and that's actually the key reason for why we are in East Africa. South Africa is a bit different. We have had a long relationship with South Africa on the business sector. Then when it comes to the seed sector, when it comes to the aquaculture sector, sorry, we are not only talking about cages and cage farming. Maybe Nigeria is not that ideal for the traditional cage farming until we move into this offshore type of construction. Then I think Nigeria will be very interesting. But of course, you have some lakes and you have some creeks and some small fjords here as well. But I think it's more, Norway is strong in the entire value chain for fish farming. That be fish feed. Skretting is already here. Skretting was actually a Norwegian company. It's now owned by a Dutch company, but they have a joint venture here already. And I think the most critical success factor for the aquaculture industry is actually fish feed. Affordable, good quality fish feed. So in that respect, I think Nigeria is quite well off already compared to some other African countries. But it's also the development of vaccines. It could be whatever research, could be any type of let's say the value chain of processing, not to mention. So there are many areas of that. Aqua Group, which you mentioned, you met them in Norway. They were actually supposed to be part of this small delegation coming here, and they apologize very much because they are very, I would say they're very keen, but they are keen on investigating the opportunities in West Africa now. Also knowing that Ali Gunnar intends to invest in this sector. Of course, they are very big. They are the biggest market now for that group is actually Iran, which is building up an aquaculture industry. Saudi has very big ambitions when it comes to building up an aquaculture industry, and so forth. And they are not. They're quite different from Norway in terms of the nature and so forth. So, but these companies, they can adjust to whatever conditions and environment the market offers. So yeah, I just want to repeat that I think Nigeria has a huge, let's say, a huge opportunity within the sector, and probably you don't have a choice. People need proteins, and fish is of course a good source for proteins. Alternative would be to import, but that's quite expensive, I guess. Other questions? Comments?
Well, Johan, thank you so much for that. That was very insightful. Slides were the slickest I've ever seen. I felt emotional about it. So that was pretty good. Okay, I think certainly from the point of view of the Nigerian Norwegian Chamber of Commerce, I think generally speaking, I think the greatest value of partners such as Innovation Norway is not only in the actual technical support that they are able to offer in terms of expertise or skill, or funding, or financing, or deal structuring. I think it's in that amorphous area of the change of perceptions. I think that holds back a significant amount of commercial activity between Nigeria and the rest of the world, and particularly Nigeria and Norway. When I took on this role, I sort of described this to someone as, someone asked me, what is this role about? And I said, Well, imagine the list of, the list published, I don't know how accurate it is, a list of the world's corrupt nations. And you have one which is pretty close to the top, and you have one which is second from the bottom. Now try and bridge that gap. And that's what we're trying to do here. So to have partners like Innovation Norway who can take the story and take the story back home, but more importantly, create little winners that say that we can do this and do this successfully and well to global standards, I think is really important. So thank you, Orihan, for coming today and for your continued advocacy on our behalf. Okay, so now we move into renewables, and we're very, very fortunate to have engineer Ajay Jacob from the Ministry of Power, who, very fortunate, will talk through federal government policy on this area before we move into the specifics. So thank you, Ajay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Greeting from the Honorable Minister, Mr. Gaji Osman, Honorable Secretary, Jose, and my able director, whom I represent this afternoon. I'm directed to represent him to present this presentation. Liberation of government policy in the Nigeria energy sector. In 2005, federal government enacted Act 2005 Power Sector Reform to liberate power sector, commercialization and privatization. In 2013, all the DSCOs, you have 18 of them, privatizing. At the advent of this one, where are we going? We are now set up Renewable and Rural Power Access Department. In Nigeria, along the south, southwest, southeast, we have gas, water. North central, we have water. And then at the north, we have sun, that is solar system. We are very lucky that we are at equator, center of equator. My outline, a Nigeria profile. Our population is 923,770 million, that area of oil. Nigeria area, 923,770 square kilometers. We have our rural population is 490 million as of 2016. Averagely 52%. And our GDP is $515 billion as of 2013. The GDP growth average 6%. GDP per capita $2,920 US. Nigeria energy resource, crude oil. Our reservoirs is 30 billion barrels. Production level 2 million barrels per day. And utilization is 445,000 barrels per day. Our natural gas 103 trillion, and our production level 1 billion per day, 3.4 billion per day. Coal, as I listed it, to save the time, for coal, reservoirs is 2.7, production level is insignificant, and utilization is 70. Tar sand, that's 30 billion barrels of oil equivalent. Then hydropower, 14,725 megawatts. At the production level, 1,968 megawatts. Utilization is 170 megawatts hour per day. Solar radiation between 3.5 to 7 kilowatt hour per square per day, where the production level is 240 kilowatt PV, and the utilization is 0.01 megawatts per hour per day. Where wind is 2 to 5, that velocity 2 to 5 meter per second at 10 meter height. But production level, we are about to, but we are still on it. Biomass, 144 metric ton, and then production level is 144. Utilization not recorded because we are about to do it. Nuclear element, that one not yet assets, though government is proposing, but for political reason, we are still on it. Wave and tidal energy, 16.6 by 10 raised to power 6 ton per year. We have geothermal energy, no production level, no utilization yet. These are power stations, existing one, connected to the grid. There you have Kanji, Siroro, Jepa, Ipin, Motosha. That is the east at that side. These are transmission line. There is a lot of education is going on where we need investors to come up on transmission lines. Because if we start producing, the conductor will not carry all the loads if we injected it to the grid. Energy supply, total energy consumption, 103 terawatt hour, or 103 trillion watt hour as of 2014. Total electricity production as a public, that's 30 terawatt hour, that's 2015. Electricity consumption is 19 terawatt hour, that's 2015. Electricity consumption per capita, 155 kilowatt hour. I think the peak of electricity demand is 17,020 megawatts as of 2016. Generation capacity is 6,865 megawatts as of 2016. And generation target by 2030 is 35,000 megawatts. How to go about it as we continue to proceed. After that, as I was said earlier, power sector reform came up 2000, the Act came up in 2005. This is timeline. Contract on metering, that is 2003. Commencement of NIPP, that is 2004. Enactment of Electric Power Sector Reform Act, that is 2005. Launching of roadmap by former government, 2010. So 2011, just that's around there. And then privatization, PHN privatization came up 2013. But the ministry expedited in 2014 because of payment of staff. You want those people that they retire or those people that retrench, somehow like that. Then 2015, transitional electricity market. So from there, we are now going to pre-privatization, that's PHN, that's in 2010. Interim growth period, that's between 2000 to 2015. In the Ministry of Power, we have this department: energy resources, transmission services, distribution services, renewable and rural power assets, and investment and sector development. Then we have parastatals. The investment, any foreign or local investor who want to invest, if they come to our department, If there's any problem, we invite these people, or we directed them to the investment department to give them how to go about it. And during that period, we are now saying, okay, investor cannot be coming, just be talking orally or something like that. Let us have documents, so that when if they are grant or how to go about it, let's have something. Then 2015, 16, we are now producing investment opportunity. We have a guideline. We have a non-technical department, human resources, finance accounts, general service, formal service unit. And then we have parastatals, NAC, Nigeria Revenue Regulation Commission. Any investor who want to invest, anything below 1 megawatt, you don't need license. You need only to inform them, they give you the guideline so that you cannot go against the rule. But anything above 1 megawatt, you have to obtain license before you generate your own power. We have TCN, which is government still have certain percentage at TCN. The Rural Electrification Agency, we have a rural fund now, it's already approved. Their own policy too, it's already approved. We have rural electric strategy and implementation planning. They have their own, if they want to invest concerning the rural electrification or something like that, come to us, we direct you to them, or go to them straight, and they'll give you this one. If you can go to our website, you see a lot of them. Embed. Embed is between discos and the power providers. They will give you they will buy the power from you. They will sell it to PHCN. If you want to generate more than 1 megawatt, they will give you guideline. 2016, June 2016, we have 14 solar providers. I think they are going to generate up to 1,200 megawatts solar. 14. So we are giving them go ahead at rate of 11.5 cents kilowatt hour. If you want to generate, you cannot go more than that one unless we come down lesser than 11.5 cents. Then this NDPC, the Niger Delta Power Holding Company, and the NIPP. They too, that's a part of our Rastata. Then PPRA, NAPTIN, this is our capital building. The NEMCO, they are the one that, where we sold discos. The NNPC is part of us because we are using gas. We are buying gas from them, from generation station. So that's why they are among our Prastata too. Then this is a privatization value chain. Gas producer and transporter, gencos, transmission, discos, and consumers. The bulk traders, that's the disco and gencos. Bulk traders, that's embed. They are going to buy from genco, then they are in the same line. We buy from genco, this one we sell to them. Its goals. The goal is to address security challenges in the country. what is happening northeast and Niger Delta. You know what the problem of Niger Delta, if people are saying, no power, no power, we know what is happening from Niger Delta. From the northeast, this Boko Haram, Wahala, cause a lot of problems. Economic diversification. Promote non-oil sectors, agriculture, and solid minerals. Nigeria energy policies. Nigeria electric power policy 2002 was approved. 75% electricity supply coverage by 2020. Another policy, national energy policy 2003. The nation shall commercially develop its renewable energy resources and ensure a balanced energy mix. Electric Power Sector Reform Act, EPSR 2005, the one that established the regulator to ensure an efficient and competitive electricity industry. 2016 and 2009, Rural Electrification Policy Paper. For 2016, the policy was approved. At least 10% of renewable energy mix by 2025. Power Sector Reform Roadmap, that's 2010. It states, demand the national energy efficiency and conservation policy to be developed. From there, we are now developed National Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Policy. That's our first policy in our department, Renewable and Rural Power Asset Department. Because any event we went, like ECRI program, those small countries within ECOWAS country, when they were talking, we'll be looking at them. But immediately we have our own national policy on the renewable and rural, renewable energy and energy efficiency policy. There's no way we are the leading country among the 15 countries within ECOWAS country. Another one in 2015, national determined contribution. That one required development of 13 gigawatt renewable energy by 2020. 2030. This is electricity access situation in Nigeria because of them. Total electricity supply in 2016 is 13,000 megawatts, was less 5,000 megawatts used by industry. Because of industry, they are using their own generators instead of using national power. Then Nigeria energy mix in 2016, 5,075 megawatts. The energy mix is both fossil fuel and renewable energy. Electricity consumption. Public electricity consumption, peak generation from public utilities is 5,075. Electricity consumption dominated by residential consumers, especially Lagos State and Kano, Port Harcourt. Our projection against 2030 for electricity assets. 2016, it was 40%. We are now projecting towards 2020. By that time, we may be able to reach 75%. And 2030, at least we can reach 90%, if we didn't reach 100%. We are projecting 20 gigawatts by 2030 with 30% renewable energy and other sources of power or of energy. By 2014, according to the graph, you see blue color is total fossil fuel, where renewable energy plus LHP, this color. Projected growth for renewable energy. Our aim is to reach 35,000 gigawatts by 2030 with mixed energy, which we are still on it. And how to do it, how to implementation status. Policy instrument. We have unsolicited projects, support regulation, responsible institution, and status of implementation according to the bulk procurement regulation. Then embed, that's what we are targeting under negotiation. Competitive procurement, bulk procurement, and renewable feed-in tariff. Bulk procurement regulation, that's renewable. So we have regulation for feed-in tariff, where embed is in charge of it. Only the government can control them. If you want to go outside the mini grid, we have off-grid, mini grid regulation, with help of NAC, another international body like a GIZ that assisting us to draft all this policy. We are able to do that of renewable energy, rural electricity agency also, and then start of implementation. In 2020, and a medium term project to be implemented between 2021 to 2025. Project to be implemented between 2026 to 2030. We have timeline framework, pipeline 1, generation, transmission, and distribution. That is on grid. Off grid is mini grid and the standalone system. I show you the one we did. Now, investment opportunity in Nigeria on renewable energy. You have a lot of these are opportunities. We need investors to come and produce, to come and manufacture solar panel, small hydro equipment, power equipment like a meter, repair meter, a lot of it, like the capacity building for our citizens and our youth. We have a lot of feasibility study in that department. Where any investor that comes, instead of going in, because we have in advance, we have moving from PowerPoint to power plants. If you come that want to present, we are not going to attend to you. What are you coming to do with us? Come and invest. Come and build your own power plant, not PowerPoint again. Policy incentives. Tax incentive for manufacturer of renewable energy and energy efficiency equipment. Tax holidays, provision of soft loans with low interest, free customer duties, like JICAN. We did a lot for them. If they are bringing their equipment on renewable energy, we are assisting them to have it. Federal government and state assisting in allocation of grants, like the one we are doing in Kaduna. They are giving us a land or to our investors. We assist them. If they come, they want to build a plant. If they come to our ministry, we give them letter to the state government, then they are going to allocate the land for them. The provision of device incentive for home owners to install renewable energy appliance and lighting. We are both ministry and the Standard Organization of Nigeria, we are working together to have standard and labeling of those appliances. And then the lightings. Soon we are going to have act to ban this incandescent lamp. So we're supposed to be using CFL and a LED lamp. Barriers to investment in the energy sector, policy and regulatory gaps, lack of human and institutional capacity, poor infrastructures, monitoring gaps, duplication of institutional mandates, up to lack of robust energy market and price mechanism. Removing investment barriers in the energy sector. That's what we are, as a policy institution, so we are trying to break that barriers so that many investors will come to Nigeria and come and invest. Both Nigerians and foreign investors, they should come and invest. They are going to assist in removing all those barriers. Why invest in Nigeria? All of us, we know abundant resources, large markets. There's no, if you start like the one we are doing at Egnami, the villagers, they are charging their phone for 100 naira per hour. But when Huawei came, and they are ready to pay 50 naira, I think 24/7, they will get light. So our pilot project, Operation Light Up Nigeria, we started from Durumi, standalone. Then after that, we moved to Shapi and Waru. That was the mini grid. But how to recoup your money was not on that Shapi and Waru. Then Huawei came and said, okay, they are going to give you a pilot project. That the one we did at Egnami in Kaduna State. It's not far to Abuja. They are now introduced prepaid meter. And then it's 40 kilowatts. The total power plant there is 40 kilowatts. And each household is 300 watts per household. This is the chief of the house. This is the prepaid meter. Immediately, you exceeded 300 watts. Your line will cut off. You have to take your card, go to control room and recharge your card. Now it's free until we commission it by next month before villagers start paying money. This one is a mini grid with street lights. After this one now, we want to remove human. Want to remove a human contact between investors and the consumer. This golden grid solution we are now introduced, we call it renewable energy micro utility. It's ongoing. By next month we are going to commission it. This one remove all any fraud or something from it. You can do it as your phone from if you are in US or anywhere you are, you can recharge and buy your credit direct. Not that you are going to, like we are buying the recharge card. So this remove human element from it. It's easy by secure, standard based, fair, reliable, 24/7, 365. Power and more, expandable, applicable, profitable, grid ready. This is the process of collecting your money if you are investors. You don't need to be afraid. You can collect your money. Immediately you install your power plant, be assured that you are going to correct. No, bypass or theft. Immediately, if anybody theft or something, the meter will cut off. No matter how. And then steps taken to achieve the target by the federal government, including in this last year and the 2017 budget, concentrates resources on completion of ongoing and off-grid and mini grid demonstration projects such as 50 kilowatt per cow. The one we are going to commission by next month. And there's another one that's going to Kashibila, 40 megawatts. Sungeru, 700 megawatts. And Mambila, 3,500 megawatts. We target commission by 2024. The embed, the one I've already explained that one, the expected solar power purchase agreement with Solar 40 project developer with 1,100 megawatts. We target completion date in 2017 and 2018. Then there's a 6 small hydro dams. If you check tender journal 2 or 3 weeks ago, we found out these 6 small hydro dams. The total capacity is 16.3 megawatts. So we are inviting private investors to come in many ways to come and invest in either hydro, solar, and derivative. Conclusion. Nigeria is supposed to meet its demand and contribute more to the West African power pool. Huge investment opportunities exist in Nigeria electricity supply industry. Local and international investors are encouraged to take advantage of the ongoing power sector reform. You are free to come. 2 or 3 people can come together, come and invest. If you can invest up to 10 megawatts, start from 1 megawatt, you are free. Our minister is ready to assist in every time. Effective monitoring of implementation of a government policy. So we are lack on that side, how to implement it, how to monitor. National coordination of energy issue is necessary. Both public and private funds are needed to move forward. There's need for all stakeholders to support government to achieve its goal. Government cannot do it alone. We are inviting investors. Norway, JICA 2 is helping us. GISN, they are helping us. Do a lot and assisting the government. So we want a Norway government to come and invest in power system. The Ministry of Power, Works and Housing is ready to support investors in the renewable energy who seek to take advantage of this policy to deliver the 30% renewable energy. The government has committed 30,800 megawatts by 2030 of renewable energy. So Norway and other Nigerians who God are blessed, come together, come and invest in renewable energy in Nigeria. Thank you for listening. If any information, you can all our policies, you find that you get it from our website.
Engineer J. Bain, thank you so much for that. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Clear sense of what government policy is. By the way, all presentations, as I mentioned, will be sent out. So, as a consequence of running a little late, we've had to skip through quite a few slides. So, you won't lose those. Any questions at all for Engineer J. Bain?
I think I have 2 questions. Few slides back, you talked about policy incentives, and I went through the list, and one of the policy incentives you mentioned was a free 2 years custom duties. Please, I want to ask, are those policy incentives, are they current or are they future plans? Because we are representing a company who is a private investor, and so far, even the solar panels that are supposed to have 0% import duties, we still pay a huge amount. For the other components of the solar power system, the import duties are still at 25%. So I want to know if those policy incentives you listed are current, are they existing, or are they plans for the future? All these rural projects, are you please using local investors, like people who are in the country, who are doing these businesses, who bring in these products? Are you bringing in foreign investors? Because I think sometime in 2015, we went to NBET and wanted to get a license to do a power plant that was above 1 megawatt. And we're told that licenses have already been issued to quite a number of people who have not started working yet. So because of that, we cannot get a license. So I need to know if the license, you started reissuing the licenses again. Thank you.
If you have any problem, write to the Minister of Power through the Honorable Minister. If you have any problem, you know how to go about it. You give letter, you go there. B2, no, Nigeria factor. And then your second question, a lot of local contractors, they will come to us, bring letters, different letter headings, requesting for land to build power plants or something from each different states. We give them, they go there and collect lands without doing anything. And then the embed too, they discover that majority of them they are giving licenses. Instead of starting their project, they will not, up to 3 years, they will not do anything. So that's why they too, they are trying to be very careful. At times they will send you to NAC. Anything above 5 megawatts, you have to go to NAC. Maybe you are not following the due process. And there's another one, ICRC, infrastructures. There are certain things you have to submit before they can grant, give the license. But if you are not following that process, you are on your own. So, I don't know whether...
This is, I think, the great opportunity in the room, and I'm certainly looking forward to the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the ambassador back, Your Excellency, Jens Peter Kemprud. Welcome back. So this is a small presentation of the Nigerian Energy Support Program and what we are doing. And this is basically on mini-grids, meaning the off-grid sector. I just have to talk a little bit about my employers. We always have to do that. The NESP is a Nigerian Energy Support Program. It's a technical cooperation program, meaning that we supply consultancy services, but we also have some small grants. It aims at enabling framework for renewable energy, energy efficiency, and rural electrification, and we focus on mini-grids. It's funded by the European Union and Germany. It's 24.5 million euro, where the 15.5 million comes from the European Union, and the 9 million euro comes from Germany. It's implemented together with our main partner here, which is the Federal Minister of Power, Works and Housing, and then also 5 Nigerian states, which we call our partner states, and this is Niger, Ogun, Cross River, Plateau, Sokoto. And the duration of the project is 5 years. It started in 2013, and it will end in February 2018. We expect that our physical activities on ground will stop with the beginning of October 2017. But then there will be a new Nigerian Energy Support Program 2 to take over. So there will be a follow-up program for the next 3 years. As concerned our mini-grids activities, we cover the full spectrum because we want to have a holistic approach on mini-grids. And this is technical advice on policies. That could be public-private partnership guidelines and the regulation. The gentleman from the Federal Minister of Power also talked about the regulation. And he had to, I'm sorry to say, update his slide because the regulation for mini-grid has been approved. We also, we do these policies both on the federal level but also on the state level. We have also given a lot of support to the rural electrification strategy and implementation plan, as well as a guideline for guideline for implementation of the rural electrification strategy and implementation plans, as well as renewable energy and energy efficiency policy documents. Beyond that, we also provide technical assistance to electrification planning and provide market intelligence for private investors and companies who want to go into the sector of mini-grids and rural electrification. This Market intelligence, we are doing this on GIS. So we had a lot of GIS map, which we also have developed together with our partner states and also on the federal level of Nigeria. So we have a lot of data, and for 5 of these states, this data, they are pretty advanced. I will show you some examples of this also. And then we provide technical assistance and capital grants to private investors in the mini-grid sector for mini-grid development. We have developed some business model, which we call the split asset model, where we can come in with a grant for the less bankable part of the projects, whereas the private investor, the operator, or a company here in Nigeria can put in their own equity or loan for the generation assets which are most bankable and can be used as a collateral for their investment. Yeah, and then we have a technical assistant to financiers and investors interested in investing in the mini-grid sector. And as I will tell you later, I think that there's a growing international interest in this area. A little bit about the situation as we have it here. Here I'm trying to define the area where you can do mini-grids. You see here that you have the population density here, where you have the urban area here, and the more and more you go this way, you go further and further rural, so the distance between the houses becomes longer. And here you have the cost of electricity, the unsubsidized electricity retail cost. It's clear that if you have a distribution company and you have a normal grid and you have an urban area, it's cheap and easy to supply the population, meaning that the cost will be low. The more and more rural you go, the more and more transmission lines, the more and more medium voltage lines you need, and the cost goes up. And in the end, it will be very expensive. Meaning that it doesn't really make sense to build a line to every small house in all of Nigeria. It will cost too much. So there you of course have another opportunity when these 2 lines they cross. Because here you have solar home systems. So if you go deep into the bush, it doesn't make sense to build a grid, but you can have a solar home system. That makes sense. We also have a band here for mini-grids. You can have different technologies. It can be solar power, it can be a combination of solar power and diesel, it could be biomass, it could be hydropower, whatsoever. So we cannot really make a line, so it's a band. So, and here you have a band which of course also go up. You cannot compete on the price in the urban area. That's for the distribution companies. But you have an area here, you can say medium populated, where you can do mini-grids. And if you also talk a little bit about the grid today, right? The debt that the distribution companies got today is higher than their owner paid for them, meaning that they are in a difficult situation. The tariffs that people pay in Nigeria for the electricity cannot pay for the value chain. The technical condition of the distribution companies' grids is, what should I call it, a nightmare. You don't have enough meter installed and you have the MITO. And the distribution companies, they cannot pay their bills to the bulk traders for the electricity. And if the bulk trader haven't any money, they cannot buy the electricity from the GenCos. So we have a very difficult situation. If you look into the transmission grids, you do not have proper control and protection of the transmission grids. You have a very low capacity in the transmission grid. So even though that you had generation capacity enough, you would not be able to send the power to the different discos and distribute the power within the distribution company. And further, yeah, what do I have more? Yeah, for the power plants, you have a fairly low capacity. And then secondly, you do not have any gas. So really, it doesn't really make sense to extend the grid at this point either, because you would not be able to put any power into the wires anyhow, which also talks for the mini-grids. Maybe just to say a little bit about what a mini-grid is. It is more or less, how to say, an isolated grid and generation working together to supply a group of houses. It could also be an interconnected grid, an underserved grid. Because if you drive around in Nigeria, you see a lot of medium voltage lines lying on the ground and with no power. But when you go to the end of these medium voltage lines, you will see that there is a grid actually. And this grid could also be used as a middle grid if you just disconnect it from the medium voltage line and bring in a generation source. Of course, this would need some kind of collaboration with the distribution companies. So it is quite complex to do mini grids. And I would also say the complexity sometimes can be a little bit, yeah, when you look into it, you say that this might even be more complicated than running a normal distribution company. Because you also have to decide where to go with the mini grid, which are the areas, you have to map it. You need to decide on what kind of technology that you want to use. What kind of control system you want to use. You have to control not only the power source, but also the batteries, battery management system, and customer control, etc., etc., etc. And then the finance is also quite complicated. And of course, regulations and business plans. The split asset model that we have developed we think so is quite a good idea, because we can subsidize the part which is not bankable, and the private sector can pay for the generation parts which are bankable, and they can get a collateral. A little bit more on the NESP. When NESP they started, we had a lot of privately led mini grids in operation, but they were all 100% grant funded. And I would say that there is a question of the sustainability in these projects, because who wants to maintain them, who should pay for the maintenance? Technically and financially, there are actually a lot of companies in Nigeria who can do this. And when we started in 2015, we started to locate these companies. And what we did was that we did a guided idea competition. We invited more than 100 companies for a workshop in Abuja, where we told them about what we were going to do. And we gave them some training with the different tools that you got on the internet on how to do mini grids. Out of these companies, then we asked them to send in an expression of interest. And out of this, around 60 companies replied positively. And in the end, we asked these 60 companies to come up with a proposal for a mini grid in one of our partner states. We ended up having 16 companies with 16 proposals. Out of this, we selected 8 to work more in depth, and finally, again, we're still discussing whether it should be 4 or 5 projects. And 5 projects is a totally grant-funded community model, which is not really for the private sector. But for the 4 projects, we have developed these with the private sector. We provide, I mentioned that before, a grant, a technical officer, with the manpower and also with equity and also debt. We have, can you make it big? Yes. Yeah. Okay. And of course, we cannot do this alone. We work together also with the authorities, and the state governments. They are also contributing a lot to this, and they have put in place different procedures for how to get access to land, how we should obtain the building permits and things like that, and how to go around with the environmental impact assessment. In the mapping of deciding where to do these mini-grids, we did a lot of work. We have listed all communities in Nigeria. We don't have the name of all of them, but we got the coordinates of them. We know the size of population in each community in all of Nigeria. We know if they have schools, if they have clinics. We know the distance from the grids, from the medium voltage line, from the distribution lines, and also from the transmission lines. One of the issues when you are doing mini-grid is actually how much wire do you need to buy. If you have a long distance between the houses, you need more wire and it becomes more expensive. I say this because when we're doing mini-grids, it have to be fine-tuned to the smallest detail to keep the cost down, to make it interesting for the private sector. And then the private sector can go in, and when people see that they have 24/7 electricity supply, they get interested in this area and they move to the area. And this enables the operator to scale up the system when you have customers enough. But we don't want him to pay too much capex costs in the beginning. So we are all the time trying to exactly meet the demand and nothing more. We are also looking into economic activities. We haven't found a way to exactly map this yet, but together with our partner states and the GIS department that they have in the States, we have started mapping different type of activities in the agricultural sector. We can also map areas where they have mining activities, etc., etc. So this GIS mapping is actually a very powerful instrument because you can put the different informations on top of each other and you can get a better and better and better picture of how the situation really is on ground. And you can come up with a completely right solution. One of the things that also should be on the map is the renewable energy potential. And of course, you got the potential for solar power in Nigeria. We know that. Even in the south, where when you talk to Nigerians, they say that, well, it's in the south, you have a lot of rain, you don't see the sun as much as you do in the north. But anyhow, if you compare the south with Europe, where they're doing a lot of solar power, the south of Nigeria is far better than any place in Europe. So definitely you can do solar power in the south. Wind, of course, you have some areas which are interesting for wind. You have some areas in the south, near the coast. You have some regions in the Plateau states and in the north in Katsina. And Nigeria also have a pilot project on wind in Katsina. I'm just not aware of the situation, how it's working. Hydropower is, of course, also a possibility, but this is much more difficult. Because of the seasonality that you got in Nigeria. You have a rainy season, and especially in the north, you would have a flood in the rivers, which is very short but very powerful with a lot of water. But the rest of the year there's absolutely nothing in the river. So the potential for small hydro in Nigeria have been exaggerated. Of course, you can find sites. And there are areas where you can do small hydropower, but really look into the flow card during the year to see how much water have you really got for this project. Okay, one single site for small hydro for rural electrification in Nigeria, in the 5 partner states that we are working. All of the sites that we investigated with very promising rivers, and they have all been mentioned in practically any study that you can find on small hydropower in Nigeria. But when we did our assessment, we found out that if we did it, we would have a situation where we couldn't supply the community with electricity for 3 to 4 months a year. And then you say, okay, we need to have 24/7, you cannot stop your business for 4 months a year, you must have power. So we went back to solar power. But Sure, there are sites, but we couldn't find them. But there are sites, we know that. We have a lot of collaboration with the National Bureau of Statistics, also on the mapping. We work together with the Federal Minister of Power Works and Housing, that's our main partner. We work together with the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, and there we have done the regulation for mini-grids. The regulation for mini-grids is there to protect the investor. Imagine that you have the situation that you have invested money into a mini-grid, and then the big grid, meets the small grid. The distribution company comes and connects to your mini-grid. Then in the regulation for mini-grids, the distribution company have to buy the grid, and then the investor gets compensated for that. He will still have his power source, and this can be connected to the grid and work as embedded generation. So in this way, we can close the gap where the investor might risk to lose money. We also work together with the Rural Electrification Agency, especially because we do not see the Rural Electrification Agency as an implementing part, as they are implementing projects. We see more the Rural Electrification Agency as a financial institution for coming up with, it could be grant, it could also be loan for rural electrification. We have the Rural Electrification Fund. Unfortunately, it has not been operationalized yet, but the Rural Electrification Strategy and Implementation Plan and the guidelines for rural electrification should open up for for access to the Rural Electrification Fund. We also work together with the states, as I told you before, because you need the states' participation in this, otherwise you will not be able to get the right of land. Distribution companies also have to be involved in this, especially because you are going into their area, so to say. The distribution company, they consider their area as their concession area. However, if you talk to NERC, they consider the distribution company's area to be where they have a supply with electricity. But we know at least this amount of people have not been connected, and that would be somewhere around 600,000. If you should look for an area for mini-grids, of course, Borno would be obvious, where you have 2 million people, which could be electrified by mini-grid. That means that the grid's infrastructure is very poor in the area. Plateau State might be more interesting, Taraba as well. And you can also see on where do you have areas for solar home systems. And Taraba again is good. Borno is also good. So meaning that if you want to sell solar home system, you should not go to the Federal Capital Territory because there they don't really need it. But you should go to Borno or you should go to Taraba. The number of locations for solar home system is far higher than the number of locations for mini grids. But the population in the areas for the solar home system is lower. So the total amount of people to be supplied by solar home system is actually lower than for our 4,000 mini-grid sites. And the capacity for our 4,000 mini-grid sites that we have located, that's around 1.8 gigawatt peak, with a total, one of the sources of data that we have used in the mapping. I will say that with anything that we have done on this mapping in Nigeria, if you go to the site, if you find a site, you have to go there and see everything with your own eyes. The mapping that we have done is not 100% correct, but it might be 85, 90% correct, something like that. When we should locate where do people have electricity, we took this picture from NASA, taken of Nigeria from outer space. It has been compiled over several months because you have load shedding and power costs, etc., etc. But here you can see where do we have power. And this we can digitalize, and then we can put this into the GIS system. And then we can put in the grid structure, then we can put in the roads, then we can map all the communities, etc., etc., etc. We put layers on top of layers. And again, as I said, if you have Lagos and Abuja, you can see there are electricity, but it doesn't say anything about the people in the suburbs, if they have been connected or not. It only says that they have electricity in the area. Another picture here from the mapping is Ogun State, and here we have clusters, as we call them. That's areas, a group of people, which could be electrified in one grid. It could also be two communities very close to each other, and then they're just connected with a medium voltage line. And all of the yellow one, that's those who have been electrified, taken from the map before. And all of the red, that's the communities not electrified. So each of them is a cluster. Lagos is a cluster, but it's just bigger than the other clusters. And we can move one step further to understand a little bit more of this mapping that we have done. This is Niger State, and here we have each community in the entire Niger State in which one could be best, according to our criteria, of course, electrified by standalone system, what could be electrified by mini-grid, and what should be electrified by grid. We even come up also with a plan for how to expand the grids, so that people also can calculate what's the investment need in the distribution company. And especially in this area here, where you have a lot of green dots, shows that, well, this is typical area for mini-grids. And such an area is extremely interesting for an investor, because he can have several projects in a relatively small area, meaning that he can relatively easily also cross a threshold of a critical number of projects and come up with a profitable business. Because all of these mini-grids that we are doing together with the private sector here, they are done with the prospect of profits. It is business. It also means that the tariff is high. For one of these mini-grids that we see here, the green dots here and there, the price for electricity, as it is now, with the current exchange rate and everything, will be around 150 to 200 naira per kilowatt hour, even though that 40% of the cost has been subsidized. But if you look at the situation, will the grid come there? No. Should these people have a chance to get electricity? Yes, of course they should. So they know that. They are beginning to understand that no one will come and give them electricity. They know by now that they will have to take the destiny into their own hands and do something if they want electricity. The electricity that they get from the mini-grid must be cheaper than what they should pay for a solar home system or having their own generator. Otherwise, it's not attractive for them. That also puts a huge pressure on the operators and the private sector to come up with a fine-tuned project which deliver the right project for the right price. And the project margin, the profit margin in these projects is low, it's true. But that's the way it can be done. And it's 12 million people. If we do not do it in this way, these people will not get electricity. But I think that also the price that we have for electricity on 150 to 200 naira per kilowatt hour also indicates that the tariff that you got today in Nigeria, where you cannot pay for the value chain, the replication stage and the NESP2, it will be up to 10 projects per partner states. Sorry, per private partner, sorry. Meaning that if we continue working together with the 5 commercial partners that we got today, that will be 50 projects in total. The total investment portfolio is 25 million euro, considering that each project costs 500,000 euros. Technical assistance, and we we will seek to matchmake, I would say, a collaboration with investors to matchmake the private partners. That means that we will have different workshops together with the investors and the private partners, so that they can learn, get acquainted with each other, and also start due diligence, etc., etc. Because you need to do that, otherwise you will not be able to find the investors in this. One more thing, and that is that there is a growing interest among international investors to go into this market, especially in Nigeria, because it's 12 million people. And we are trying to develop collaboration also with crowdfunding agencies in Europe, so that people in Europe, they can do a small-scale investments. They go on the internet page of the crowdfunding agency and they find the project, and then they can say, I want to invest 1,000 euro in this project. And then when 100 people have done that, well, then you got 100,000 euro. So, and I think this could be a way forward. Otherwise, oil companies have been interested in this for CSR reasons, but they have been a little bit more, how to say, in doubt on how to go about this. And we have stepped aside and said, okay, here's our private partners, see what you can do with them. And then we let the oil companies doing the CSR and the private sector develop, how to say, their collaboration between them. We don't need to be in between that. And the GI said they do not want to earn any money on this. We are only facilitating that this is happening. So that's our task. I think that's what I want to say. Any questions? That's you, Scott.
Bring the point earlier on about clusters attracting additional density from outlier areas once you have a liquid in. I wonder if you've done any modelling of what that might look like, and if the cost per kilowatt hour is 200 naira. Over time, is that likely to drop? Do you make subsequent investments in extension of capacity on mini grids?
Yes, we have, and we have been working a lot on that. The bigger projects we can do, the lower price we can have. And especially the more productive use of energy that you can get, the lower price. It's obvious. The better you utilize your system, the better profit you get. And I think that this is actually quite interesting also, because we had this, where's he? This no oil presentation he left. Yeah, sorry, yeah. But his objective number 3, as far as I remember, was to lift at least 10 million Nigerians out of poverty. The mini-grid rollout that we are thinking about is to lift at least 12 million Nigerians out of darkness. Right? If you try to compare this a little bit, you mentioned the UN Sustainable Goals, and and this is also about, how to say, eradication of poverty, coming up with a better life, renewable energy, etc., etc. We had the cashew presentation, and mini-grid can actually power people to take their destiny into their own hands and develop small industry. And this could actually bridge this gap, how to say, for getting cheaper power, but also to enable people to take the destiny into their own hand and create productive use of energy. It could help the Bank of Industry to locate their projects that they need to disperse their fund for small-scale industries. It could raise education, the state of health, and reach no oil in Nigeria targets, etc. I just think that this could really be one of the missing links in how to put all this together. So I think this is quite important. And the more that you can combine of this, of course, the price will come down because you will have more profit at the other end. Yeah.
And as you know, many of us here in Nigeria, power is one of the things which we think about all the time. three questions. First, the data which you presented. I mean, you made some statements there which I found a little surprising. You know what the number of people are in each community throughout the whole country. We've been trying to do a census for 40 years. We still don't know. So can we have access to that data first? Data is critical for investors and so on. So is that data which you have, is it in the public space? Is it available for purchase? That would be interesting to know. The second question I had was in relation to the cost of producing electricity. Roughly, it's about 10 times what it is produced, what the current tariff is. I think the current tariff is about 20 naira or something like that per kilowatt hour. Now, part of that is because of the economies of scale. You talked about that a little bit. As a potential investor in a mini-grid, you must have a long-term outlook. But what happens when you set up your mini-grid and very soon some disco, after they sorted out the mess they're in and they're able to pay their bills, sees this community as a potential for them. They're coming in at a price of maybe 50 or 60 naira per kilowatt hour. Those people will put up their investments looking for maybe 5-7 years return on that investment. What happens to that investment? Could it be threatened by the expansion of current discos into the areas where those mini-grids, I mean, can you lock people out? And finally, how can new investors, some who might be here, gain access to your framework? Is there any more room for new people to come and play in that space?
As to the data. The data we got, we have a lot of data from polling stations and things like that, from the National Bureau of Statistics, and we have data from the Sustainable Development Goal database, etc., etc., etc. We put it all together and we match it with other data sources we got about Nigeria to see how is the distribution of the population. It matched, I can't remember exactly how much it was, but it was around 87–89%. So, and I also told you before, it's not 100% correct, but it gives you a pretty good picture of the situation. That's why you have to go there on site to locate it and see it with your own eyes. So we cannot do it better than that. But for the states that we have been working in, they have had a working group who have visited all the sites that we have identified. First of all, to come up with a name on the site and also to validate the data that we have found. It doesn't really make sense for us to go and look at a community which have 200 people because it's not interesting for us for a mini-grid. But if we have a site which have 2,000 people, it's interesting for us. If you have a site which have 50,000 people, we would say, this should be electrified by the distribution company and not for a mini-grid. We also have the barrier for license. If you go about 1 megawatts, you need a license. So we are looking at these criteria also to see, well, where can we actually go? So, and the data that we got, of course, in a few years' time, they will be old, because there are a lot of changes in Nigeria and things go really fast. The idea is that these data will be hosted by the Federal Ministry of Power on a server, which I buy for them. And the private sector should have access to these data so that they can locate the sites and go there and work with them. And in the concept note that I have done, and which the Federal Minister of Power have accepted, they have accepted these guidelines for the open governments. You have these guidelines for how to share data with the public sector and the civil society. So I have done my part, I would say. So then let's see in the future. But the data exist and they are there. And I think also that the companies interested in this, especially now when we go into the rollout phase, I think they will move pretty fast around in these data to locate the best sites, because the fastest mover gets the best sites. That's how it is in the private sector. The best business ideas, the one who's fastest and smartest, you get it. And I think this is also good, because this will most likely also reduce the price on the site. So that's how it is. Big, 50,000, 60,000 people. It's not a site for mini grids. It would be too big. So in that case, the distribution company should be encouraged to go there. It's not, that doesn't mean that the distribution company will go there, because they will only go there, first of all, if they can sell something, if they have power in their system to transmit to the area, and that the maintenance cost will not exceed the income from selling the electricity. In the areas where we are doing mini-grids, we have the mapping we have done have a distance to 20 kilometers to the 11 kilowatt system, meaning that it will most likely, not a guarantee, but most likely take more time before they reach this area. They will have to electrify the area where they are now first. And then the regulations say that, I have to say that if the operator register his project at NERC, then he falls under the regulation. That means there are also some criteria for the operator. And like, he should have done an environmental impact assessment, and he should also construct the grid in line with the Nigerian grid codes. Meaning that when the distribution company reaches the area, he can connect these grids immediately, and then it works. But then the operator have done all the work, and he should be compensated. Meaning that the distribution company should buy the grids, and then the operator will be compensated.
A world-class company, Scatic Solar, a win in Nigeria. Enjoy. Stein?
Thank you. Presentation. It made me nervous because we are not yet there. So to go to Nigeria and teach a large audience on how to make the deal in Nigeria is a challenge.
I'm trusting your efficiencies.
I'll give it a try. First, a little bit on my company and the background and why we are here at all. Scatec Solar is a listed company in Norway. We make a living out of being an integrated independent power producer. So that means we are developing projects from scratch, trying to take them all the way to financial close. Then, on behalf of the company that through that development has been established together with our partners, we are also the construction partner for, say, ourselves together with our partners. And then we are harvesting after 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years of development through the sale of the power. That's what we make a living out of. So I will try to explain how this is currently being done on our side here in Nigeria, and try to give you an impression of the challenges we have, how much is left, what do we foresee in the coming years. This is a very typical solar power project development setup. So of course there is a little bit of screening in the very early phases. Then a gate where we establish some economical parameters, some technical parameters to see whether this could fly at all. If it does, then we go take it one step further. Trying to establish control of the site, either purchase a piece of land, lease something, gain the control. And then I would say key is the power purchase agreement. In Nigeria and in basically every other country we are established in, it's about a typically 20-25 years power purchase agreement with some state-owned utility. That's the typical case. If we succeed with that, we do another check. Is this still a sound project? Does it still look good? Does it make sense to spend even more resources without any kind of revenue towards financial close? And during those phases, we approach the lenders, we sign partner agreements with our partners. We start to do some serious engineering so that when we hopefully get to financial close, we can go for a very quick execution phase, typically a year or less than a year, which based on the volumes is quite aggressive. I'll show you a little bit on that later. We have seen a few excellent presentations earlier today on well, the last one was on smaller scale, small grid. We are not into that business, at least not yet. So this is what we do. Large scale solar plants, typically with a horizon of at least 20 years of operation. That's what we have focused on so far, typically in not very mature markets. Scatec Solar has a history now of about 10 years where we have been a part. We have currently plants in operations in the Czech Republic. We have 3 plants in South Africa. We have 1 in Rwanda, we have 1 in Honduras, we have 1 in Jordan, which is the last one we commissioned. We have also built a few others, however sold them during these 10 years to enable more projects to be constructed. What we call the backlog. These are projects that are very close to financial close now, so we believe that we will start construction very soon. We have another project in Honduras. We are a part of the 4th round in South Africa, so that's actually a massive project for us with 258 megawatts. We are very close to starting the real work in Mali, so that's at least West Africa. We are very close to starting construction work in Mozambique. We have another project in Brazil that is quite mature, and we have actually 3 projects as part of, say, one bigger project in Malaysia, and we expect to start construction there this summer. Which I think also has some advantages when it comes to approaching development banks and international lenders. Through this journey that we have had the last 10 years, we have a number of strong players that have been with us, some of them being here today too. I'm not going to go through all of them. When it comes to the project here in Nigeria, there are 3 lenders on board. So we have OPIC from the US, we have African Development Bank, and we have the Islamic Development Bank. They are a part of, let's say, a club that are taking 1/3 of the project lending need each. In addition to that, Norfund, a Norwegian governmental organization that has been mentioned before today. They are equity partners with us. So in Nigeria, we have 51% ourselves, and then 2 other partners taking the rest. So that means Norfund has approximately 1/4, and Africa 50 has the remaining 24.5%. So that's the setup we have here in Nigeria. I'll also come a little bit back to this. Then Ole from Innovation Norway had a great presentation earlier today on renewables in Norway, on electrical cars, and some other nice things about how we do things in Norway. You forgot to mention, Ole, that not only are the cars environmentally friendly, they are also the best cars. You forgot to mention that part.
Exactly.
Yes. And to be a Norwegian, to observe the development of electric cars is simply amazing. And why am I talking about that in Nigeria? Because I wanted to make a comment on that in relation to what you're seeing here. This is something I stole from the World Bank. This shows how the cost of solar power production has been declining the last 5-6 years. It's simply amazing that we, maybe 6 years ago, were almost 4 times higher on the cost per kilowatt hour of production from solar power. So the presentation we have had from the Ministry of Power an hour ago on the forecast for Nigeria towards 2030, I think gravity is going to kick in here. I think solar is, well, I don't think, I know that solar today is about to become cheaper than any other conventional source of energy. And with this development, why should it not be the winner towards 2030? And why am I bragging about electrical cars in relation to this? The thing is, solar produces during daylight. You need something to balance your power. You need some base load. And to see this in combination with electrical cars and the way the electrical cars are driving developments on battery, to see the cost of battery following the exact same curve as this, makes me really, really optimistic that we have an extremely feasible solution for the future that is also going to be cost-effective and really competitive without a strong incentive scheme from anyone. So that was the religious part of my presentation. I'll then speak a little bit about what we are doing here in Nigeria. We have a project in Dutse, in the state of Jigawa in the north. Dutse is 110 kilometers east of the city of Kano. This map is, by the way, the solar radiation map over Nigeria, showing that we have, well, in rough numbers, 20% higher radiation up in the north compared to where we are today. So the north is actually a very good place to plan solar projects. Yeah. So what we are planning is a 100 megawatt peak power plant in Dutse. We have a lease agreement, 40-year lease agreement with the state of Jigawa for a 200-hectare piece of land. Very feasible, I would say. This is flat agricultural land. This is in the dry season. This is in the less dry season. So no one is living on the piece of land here. However, being agricultural land, we need to have a program for those that are growing or farming on the piece of land. So that's a part of the challenge we have for this project, and I'll come back to that. The project is located quite close to an existing substation, the Dutse substation, as part of the central grid in Nigeria, owned by TCN. So our responsibility would be to connect to that, meaning we also have to build a little bit of overhead line and an extension to the substation. So about development and structuring then. For instance, how much time does it take? And about making and closing the deal in Nigeria, I should have had a clear answer to you guys now, but I don't. What I can say is that we have been working with this for 3 years. We are not yet at financial close. So what typically happens here is that there is some pre-work here. We secure the land maybe we have a kind of an intentional agreement with the authorities. Maybe we have been working for a year before we enter into the development phase. In our case, there is around 40 agreements, something like that, that needs to be entered into with the authorities and the other players. So I would say we are about here in our project now. We have signed the PPA, we have signed the grid connection agreement, we have a number of other agreements in place. However, still significant work remaining towards our financial close. So just to give you a few examples then. We signed the Memorandum of Understanding with the state government of Jigawa back in 2014. So that's 3 years ago now. We have been working continuously since then. I would say most of it is behind us. However, still difficult hurdles to pass from now till we are at financial close. Work is ongoing with federal ministries, even with the federal government. The lenders, as I mentioned, they are on board. However, that's a quite lengthy process as well. Their perception of risk is a challenge. That goes for economic risk and it goes for other kind of risks. So, as was mentioned before today, that is something we have to work with. We have to take them to Nigeria, make them understand that the conditions here are manageable.
And maritime, real estate, and on the capital markets origination bits, that's really raising long-term financing for all the businesses of the bank. So it's for oil and gas, downstream, upstream, food and beverages. So it's from the product perspective. Okay. I know we must all be. This is the second largest bank in Nigeria. It's actually 100 years this year. It used to be Barclays Bank and transitioned to become a majority-owned public government bank, but was privatized in the 1990s. But today it's owned by local and international institutional investors who own about 85% of the bank, and the rest of the 15% is held by Nigerian shareholders, corporates and large corporates. In 2015, we rebranded and launched our new identity, really reinforcing our position as a simpler and smarter bank and our strategy to be a highly respected provider of quality banking services. Okay. This just gives a snapshot of some of our key indicators, and we have total assets of over 1 trillion naira, total equity of about 240 billion, where local currency rated a triple B plus and foreign currency rated a single B by Fitch. Okay. Now, in terms of the Nigerian power sector, I know that a lot has been said, and there are lots of issues, especially around collections and liquidity. But we believe as a bank that despite the myriad of issues facing the sector, ranging from the non-cost reflective tariffs, the high loss aggregates, both technical and commercial, and generally, things around non-availability of gas, we still believe that there are pockets of opportunities that can be pursued within the sector. Now, the Nigerian government has embarked on several intervention initiatives which have provided some relief in terms of liquidity, but we believe that for as long as the fundamental issues are not addressed, this will only be short term, but for the long-term sustainability, the key issues around the tariffs would have to be addressed. Having a vast and varied natural resources such as solar, hydro, biomass, which are key raw materials in providing clean energy. The government has aspirations to, I think they've set very ambitious targets, which I think will be difficult to achieve. But I think that as the private sector begins to engage, in small pockets. Now, in terms of what our financing approach is, we're currently active in the power sector. We've actually financed 3 gas-fired plants, one in Lagos, one in Sapele, and one in Rivers State. But obviously, we know that these have been faced with challenges. So it is where we identify a project, and we think that the off-takers are credible, and they can make repayments over a 5 to 7 year. The cash flows can make repayments over a 5 to 7 year period. And we're also in discussions with some of the multilateral agencies, with USAID in particular, looking at the risk-sharing arrangement where they will take 50% of the risk where we have identified projects that meet their criteria. Now, so in structuring, our debt equity mix is typically 70 to 30. For brownfields, where there are sufficient free cash flows, we can fund up to 100% of the debt where we have recourse to these cash flows for debt repayments. Now for greenfields, we expect interest to be repaid from equity, but the principal repayments, we're able to give a moratorium of 18 to 24 months. But when it's a brownfield project where the existing cash flows, we would expect principal repayments to commence immediately. So we're able to provide, like I had said, we provide a wide range of commercial banking solutions. So in addition to financing, we can provide treasury management as well as transaction banking solutions for the project. But in terms of the transaction types, where the existing cash flows, and that's corporate finance, in terms of the mix of the projects we will do, on the rule of thumb, about 80% of our projects will really be where there are existing cash flows for repayment. So it may be a new plant, but they're going to provide to existing businesses, as opposed to a new plant providing power to a new business that has not been tested. That would constitute only about 20% of the financing. Now, in terms of sources of funding, depending on the amount, where it's not a significant amount, I think up to about 10 billion naira we can do a loan on a bilateral basis, but where we have much larger transactions, then we would syndicate this, and we also have the skills in-house to be able to syndicate the loan. And also, the central bank has a well-priced liquidity intervention where we can also source for funding for single-digit financing in local currency. Currency, we can provide both Naira and USD or Euro financing, but we will not have a currency mismatch. So where the receivables are in dollars or in euros, then we can provide the financing in foreign currency. In the past, where it was a Naira receivable, but it was indexed to a dollar, so what if there was a devaluation, it would, that would be reflected in the Naira collections. But given the issues around the availability of Naira, we will not even give dollars for a dollar index Naira receivable.
Thank you so much. I know you whizzed through that because you're very compassionate and kept us in mind. Thank you. But the content's there, and of course everyone has the slides after the day, so we won't miss anything. Any questions for Shola? No?
How easy is it to access a single-digit central bank funds? Because all the other syndicated loans and bilateral loans exist in the high teens and even in the early 20s. As someone had mentioned before, for example, the people working with the small grid projects, the margins are very thin. And the projects won't be viable at 18% in interest rates. So people will be focusing more on those intervention loans, possibly. How easy is it for you to obtain those on behalf of your potential customers?
The sense of what we'll do will come from the intervention fund, the single digits. But like I had said, yes, given the high interest rate environment, what we can do is that we can help and actually provide a sculpted amortization and make it backloaded where you've been able to ramp up generation, and where you have, at the beginning of the project, it's lighter in terms of repayment. So that can help to address issues around high interest rates.
Thank you, Wally. I'll be real quick because it's been a long day for sure. Just two things. We all know why we're here today. There are two reasons. Nigeria is a fantastic country, and Norway is a potential privileged partner. Okay. Having said that, we were able today to see all the potential opportunities that are in Nigeria, thanks to the presentation from the Nigerian Export and Promotion Council. And we've been very excited to see what Norway can bring to us, thanks to the presentation made from Innovation Norway. The rest is very easy. It's all about network connections. That's what we're here for. So those of you who are very many here today who are not yet members of the chamber, come and join us and we'll do all this together. Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening.
And finally, just before we go, I would like to say an exceptionally personal thank you to two individuals who have made today a flawless logistics success and who keep the chamber running while we scratch our heads and figure out where we're going next. And the two individuals I'd like to please come forward here. They are Admin and Operations Manager Timoye Oshodi and our research analyst, Wayne Asa. Thank you so much for all that. Thank you. And of course, my special and personal thank you to the Ambassador, Ambassador Jens Petter. You've been very brave indeed, sir, to spend this long with us. Thank you. Thank you all. I hope to see you on our next roundtable. Have a great evening, and thank you.
Okay.
I try to.
Let's all go.
Another opportunity if you are advising those companies that there is this Enterprise Europe network, which we already on our consular management. Thanks to this platform, interconnect SMEs in Europe with SMEs in Nigeria, and it's an online platform which is accessible to everybody.
How do you make the photos available?
I'll send them to one. No, they'll go to him.
Because I took one for you from